Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I used to believe my childhood was idyllic. Looking back, I realize it was a stage where silent favoritism played its part, a subtle poison masked as love. My cousin Riley and I were like twins, or so our parents often said. Born just 3 months apart, we spent every summer together, climbing the old oak tree in the backyard, whispering secrets, and dreaming up grand futures. To anyone watching, it looked like we were equally cherished, but beneath the surface, the seeds of inequality were quietly sown. "Hannah, don't forget to take that casserole to Riley's house," my mother called out one warm July afternoon. "Your aunt has enough on her plate." Riley's family always seemed to need more attention, more help, more love. My father's generosity, a trait often praised by others, extended to paying for their car repairs, their unexpected medical bills, and even Riley's piano lessons. It wasn't that we were neglected. It was that their needs always seemed louder. As a child, I didn't question it. I'd only noticed the way my father's eyes softened when Riley spoke, the way he called her his little star, even as I sat right beside her. One Christmas, the favoritism became too glaring to ignore. Riley and I sat by the tree, tearing into our presents. I unwrapped a modest art kit, one I'd begged for all year. Riley opened an elegant violin, a gift she hadn't even asked for. My father's smile as he explained the instrument's rich history made my chest tighten. Later, as we sat together on the living room floor, Riley leaned in with a conspiratorial grin. "Your dad's the best, isn't he?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, the best." At 10 years old, I didn't have the words to explain the slow-building resentment that simmered beneath my skin. I only knew that every special gift for Riley felt like a small betrayal. Years passed, and the dynamic never changed. When it came time for college, my father's belief in hard work became his mantra. "Hannah, you'll value it more if you contribute. You'll thank me one day," he said as I packed my car with boxes, preparing for my freshman year. I didn't argue, even as Riley's tuition check was sent directly to her university, paid in full by my father. The trigger for the unraveling of my belief in fairness came during Riley's wedding. By then, I was 23 and had moved into a cramped apartment with peeling paint and unreliable plumbing. I'd worked tirelessly to make rent each month, scraping together what little I could to make ends meet. My father's refusal to help with my housing had stung, but I'd convinced myself it was his way of teaching me resilience. Then, I overheard a conversation that shattered any illusions of fairness. "The $50,000 will cover the down payment on Riley's new apartment." My father's voice carried through the hallway during one of our family gatherings. I froze, unable to move. "That's so generous of you," my aunt gushed. "Riley deserves it. She's always been your favorite, hasn't she?" My father chuckled softly. "It's not about favorites. It's about helping those who need it most." The words hit me like a blow. Need? I'd needed help too, but my needs were met with lectures on independence, while Riley's were answered with checks and praise. "Hannah?" Riley's voice snapped me out of my trance. She stood behind me, a vision of bridal bliss in her white dress. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a tight smile. "Fine. Just fine." But I wasn't fine. I was far from it. That night, as I lay awake in my cold, tiny apartment, the reality of my father's favoritism cemented itself in my mind. Riley's wedding gift was the final crack in the fragile facade of my family's love. I made a decision then and there. I wouldn't live in the shadow of my cousin's special treatment anymore. For the first time in my life, I resolved to confront my father. Little did I know, that confrontation would sever the ties that bound us, perhaps forever. The cold wind bit at my cheeks as I clutched the letter in my hand. 7 years had passed since I last spoke to my father, and yet here it was, his familiar handwriting scrawled across the envelope. I tucked it into my coat pocket, deciding it could wait. After all, I was meeting Nathan in 20 minutes to discuss something far more important: our wedding plans. Life without my family's support hadn't been easy, but I'd grown stronger than I ever thought possible. After the fallout, I swore to myself I would never rely on anyone else again. I worked tirelessly, climbing my way up from an entry-level position at a marketing firm to managing my own team. Every promotion, every bonus, every saved dollar brought me closer to proving that I didn't need my family's favoritism. or anyone's charity. I arrived at the cafe, Nathan already seated by the window, his boyish grin lighting up his face as I approached. "You're late," he teased, pulling out a chair for me. "Blame the postman," I replied, taking a seat. "My father sent me a letter." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "And you haven't opened it?" "Not yet," I said, waving it off. "Probably another attempt at small talk or an awkward peace offering. It's nothing I can't handle." Nathan frowned slightly, but he didn't press further. Instead, we dove into the details of our wedding. The florist, the menu, the venue, everything felt so surreal, as if I were planning someone else's life. But I couldn't shake the weight of that envelope in my pocket, the way it seemed to burn against my side. That evening, after Nathan left for work, I finally opened it. "Hannah, I heard about your engagement. I'd like to contribute $3,500 to the wedding expenses. It's all I can afford right now, but I hope it helps." "Dad?" I stared at the letter, disbelief twisting into anger. My father, who had gifted Riley a fully furnished apartment, was now offering me a paltry $3,500? It felt like a slap in the face, a reminder of every slight and every ounce of favoritism I had endured. Nathan found me pacing the kitchen when he came home. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern softening his voice. I handed him the letter. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. This isn't right, Hannah. He can't just throw money at you and expect everything to be okay." I nodded, feeling the knot of anger tighten in my chest. "It's not even about the amount, it's the principle. He gave Riley everything, college, an apartment, a wedding, and for me, it's breadcrumbs. How am I supposed to forgive that?" Nathan took my hand. "You don't have to. You've built a life without him and you've done it brilliantly. Don't let this letter make you doubt that." His words were comforting, but as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an offer of money. It was a thread, an attempt to weave back into my life, but only on his terms. Something about it felt wrong, as if accepting it would undo everything I had worked so hard to build. I folded the letter and tucked it away in a drawer, resolving not to respond. This was my life now, one I had built with my own hands, and I wasn't about to let him tear it apart again. The invitation arrived on a Monday morning, tucked between bills and a glossy wedding catalog. A white envelope, heavy and embossed with gold edges, bore Riley's handwriting. My name was written with such care it almost looked apologetic. I stared at it for what felt like an eternity, the memory of my father's letter still fresh in my mind. Inside was a simple card. "Hannah, I would love to meet and catch up. Let me make things right. Lunch on Friday? My treat." I should have thrown it away. 7 years without a single phone call or email, and now she wanted to catch up. The nerve of it stung, but curiosity kept me from discarding it. I needed to know what she wanted. When Friday arrived, I found myself sitting across from Riley at a chic downtown bistro. She hadn't changed much. Her hair perfectly styled, her clothes immaculate, and that same effortless charm she always carried. I, on the other hand, felt out of place in my tailored blazer. The years of hard work etched into my face. "Hannah," she began, her voice warm but cautious, "thank you for coming. I know this must feel strange." "Strange is one word for it," I replied, keeping my tone even. "What's this about, Riley?" She hesitated, toying with the edge of her napkin. "I've been thinking about us, about how things ended. I hate that we haven't spoken in so long." I narrowed my eyes, searching for the angle. Riley was never one for heartfelt gestures without a purpose. "Why now?" "I miss you," she said simply. "And I know Dad does too. He's been trying to reach out, hasn't he?" I tensed at the mention of him, but really pressed on. "He feels awful, Hannah. About everything. He's just not good at saying it. That's why he sent the money." I laughed, the sound bitter. $3,500? After all these years, that's his grand gesture. "Hannah, it's not about the amount," Riley said, leaning closer. "It's about him trying. Don't you think it's time to let go of the past?" Her words were like a knife, cutting through years of hurt and anger. "Let go," I repeated, my voice rising. "You have no idea what it was like for me, Riley. You got everything handed to you on a silver platter, while I was left to fend for myself. And now you want me to just forget all of that?" Riley's face fell, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt. But then her composure returned, and she reached for my hand. I'm not saying it was fair. I'm saying we can move forward. We're family, Hannah. The word family hung in the air, heavy with irony. I pulled my hand back and stood. Maybe you and Dad should have thought about that before cutting me out. Enjoy your lunch, Riley. I'm done. As I walked away, I felt her eyes on my back, but I didn't look back. The olive branch she offered wasn't an act of reconciliation, it was a test. And I refused to fail. It started with a notification on my phone, a social media alert that made my stomach tighten. My father's name appeared in bold letters beneath a post that had already garnered dozens of comments. I did everything for my daughter, but she turned her back on family. Now she's demanding an apartment like her cousins, even though I gave her so much already. I raised her better than this. The words blurred as anger surged through me. The comments were worse. Ungrateful kids these days. What a spoiled brat. Your cousin must be the golden child for a reason. My heart pounded. How dare he twist the narrative? I had kept silent for years, swallowing the bitterness to preserve what little dignity I had left. But this was a public execution of my character. Nathan found me staring at the screen, frozen in fury. What's wrong? I handed him my phone, unable to speak. His eyes scanned the post, his jaw tightening with each word. This is unacceptable, he said sharply. Are you going to let him get away with this? I shook my head, the initial shock giving way to determination. No, not this time. That night, I drafted my response, each word carefully chosen. By morning, I posted it, my fingers trembling as I hit publish. For years, I endured being treated as less than, always second to my cousin Riley. My father refused to help me with housing, only to gift Riley $50,000 for her apartment. Now, after years of silence, he offers me $3,500 and calls it generosity. I am not ungrateful. I am standing up for myself. The truth matters. The backlash was immediate, but so was the support. Strangers shared their own stories of family favoritism and betrayal. Later that afternoon, Riley called. Her voice was sharp, defensive. Hannah, what were you thinking? Airing this for everyone to see. What was he thinking? I shot back. Did you expect me to stay silent while he painted me as the villain? This could ruin us, she snapped. Do you know how many people have seen this? That's on him, not me, I replied coldly. Maybe it's time the truth came out. As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of triumph and dread. The fallout from my public response was both liberating and exhausting. For weeks, my life felt like an open book, with strangers flipping through the pages, dissecting my every word. Yet for the first time, I felt free, not from the prying eyes of others, but from the weight of my father's narrative. One afternoon, as the autumn sun dipped low, Nathan found me sitting on the porch of our new house, lost in thought. The boxes from our move were scattered around, a mix of chaos and possibility. What's on your mind? He asked, settling beside me. I turned to him, the crisp air carrying a sense of renewal. I'm just thinking about how far I've come, I said softly. For years, I let their opinion of me define who I was. Now, it's different. Nathan smiled, his hand finding mine. Because you finally see what I've always seen. A woman who doesn't need anyone's approval to know her worth. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. An email. I hesitated before opening it, my heart skipping a beat at the sender's name, Riley. Subject. Let's talk. The message was short but unexpected. Hannah, I've been reflecting on everything. I know I haven't always been fair to you, and neither has Dad. Can we meet? I'd like to apologize and make amends. I stared at the screen, unsure of how to feel. Riley's tone seemed genuine, but history had taught me caution. Nathan peered over my shoulder. Are you going to meet her? I don't know, I admitted. What if it's another trap? Or worse, what if she's sincere and I don't know how to respond? Nathan squeezed my hand. You don't owe anyone forgiveness, Hannah, but maybe this is a chance to close the chapter on your terms. A week later, I agreed to meet Riley at a small cafe in the city. She arrived looking nervous, her usual confidence replaced by something fragile. I'm glad you came, she began, her voice unsteady. I've been thinking about what you said. About how unfair things have been. I sipped my coffee, letting her words settle. And And you're right, she said, her eyes meeting mine. Dad always put me first, and I never questioned it. I should have. I'm sorry, Hannah. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. The apology was unexpected, and though it didn't erase the past, it felt like a start. I appreciate you saying that, I replied carefully. But things can't go back to the way they were. I've built a life without all of you. A good one. Riley nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I understand. I just hope someday we can rebuild something different. As I left the cafe, I felt lighter. Not because everything was resolved, but because I finally had closure. Nathan was waiting for me at home, his arms open as I stepped inside. How did it go? I smiled, leaning into him. It's a new beginning, I said, for me, for us, and maybe for her too. And with that, I closed the door on the past, ready to embrace the future.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.